I mentioned in a community post that I've been feeling creatively stuck lately, so I thought I'd share a few things I've been working on over the last couple of weeks, including a bedroom refresh to fit these warmer months, lampshade makeovers that didn't go how I planned but ultimately turned into a happy mistake, trying my hand at tufting for a surprise box, and answering some of the questions you all left for me. All the bedding is freshly out of the dryer, and we can start to do this light refresh to the room that started this YouTube journey. I'll add some imagery from that video for a better reference of what the bedding looked like, since I was all too excited to strip everything away before remembering to film. I absolutely love this look, but it's a bit heavy and warm for these hotter months, and I like the idea of having one look for fall and winter and another for spring and summer. It's a small change twice a year that keeps everything feeling fresh, and I love looking forward to matching the vibe with the seasons, and this seems like an easy way to do it. I just want to say that I have recently tried those expensive laundry detergents I see influencers here on YouTube rave about, and no shade to the companies at all, because while they do seem to clean just fine, the scent doesn't seem to make it through the drying process. For a fraction of the price, I use these scent beads, and man do they pack a punch. There are so many options out there, but this is my favorite right now. Use sparingly at first because they can be quite strong and don't fade in the least in the dryer. Arrow asked, what has sparked your interest to do what you're doing now? I assume you were like that as a kid? I think this is the perfect question to start with, since I did an abysmal job of introducing myself when I started this channel. By the way, hi, my name is Blake, and yes, the Y is a part of my name. I have many very early memories of me as a child cleaning or putting together spaces, and maybe the adults were just being nice, but I was always met with such surprise and praise, and I latched onto that feeling. I would do this in other people's homes as well, and looking back at it now, that was a very aggressive thing for me to have done. I loved rearranging things around the living room and bedroom, making it feel like a new space with minimal effort. I think when you grow up around instability or chaos, sometimes the things you're drawn to later in life are the things that create order and structure. For me, making a space feel homey is essential to my inner happiness even to this day. I really love how cocooning my bedroom feels with the color drenching and dark accents, but I thought for the spring and summer months we could bring in just a subtle pop of color, and I thought this orange would complement the greens beautifully. I really like how these patterns are essentially the same, but have their distinct differences, keeping it cohesive without feeling too busy. I have mentioned this before, but I always add an insert that's at least 2 times larger than the pillowcases to get a full and structured look. I also stumbled across this adorable lumbar pillow that mimics the border of the throw pillows and keeps the same lovely linen material to tie it all together. I've seen DIY pleated lampshades a few times and figured I'd take a shot at it since it seemed like an easy way to bring some interest to my nightstands. It seems pretty straightforward, measuring out and cutting 3-inch strips, not having to be too exact because with all the overlapping this should be pretty forgiving. From what I gather, all you need to do is fold your strip in half, secure it to the lampshade, and overlap on itself until you've reached the end. Mike asked, I'd love to learn more about your background. Is it in interior design or architecture? What was your professional journey to get where you are? Well, I wish I had a more interesting background, but to be honest, my jobs have been incredibly ordinary, and I have tried almost everything. Fast food, retail, bars, customer service, accounting, but the only one I ever really felt proud about was working in light, sound, and video, putting together those components for concerts or similar situations. I guess that helped with some design concepts, and definitely my love for lighting. I also have an associate's degree in arts, which didn't help me much in life, but undoubtedly opened my mind to design and how to approach projects. I grew up watching and helping my grandma with projects. She would build anything, and I credit her for my knowledge of power tools and woodworking. And don't underestimate the things you can learn from watching YouTube videos. I have learned many things here, and I always walk away with an inflated sense of ability to tackle things I know nothing about. Much like this project. It's hard for me to envision something sometimes until it's done, and if I'm being honest, I'm not loving how this turned out. I like the shade and the base separately, but they aren't playing together how I hoped they would. So I'm going to put a pin in this project for now and move on to something that has an actual deadline. I was asked to put something together for a family member, and maybe I'll keep what I'm making a secret for just a little while and see if you can guess what it will be. This box will ultimately be outside when opened, so to ensure it won't tip over due to wind, I'm going to hot glue an inexpensive slate cheese board I found at Michael's to the base. Next, I'll measure the openings, and taking some old foam I've had laying around the house from previous projects, mark out and cut to size. Since I have no idea what I'm doing, I'll be dry fitting everything along the way to see what I need to change or to adjust. Doing this revealed the top portion will need to be beveled to look more flush with the lid. I shouldn't have cut out the corners, so I'll need to add a bit back to fill it out. Eric asked, what inspires your taste in decor and styling? In terms of something like this, when I've been asked to put something together, it is helpful to know exactly what they are looking for. I work best with a clear direction, mostly because nothing dismantles me more than feeling like I failed someone, so I like to feel like I'll deliver on what they're asking. Luckily for this project, I was given a color palette and a vision board, which was an absolute dream. It also helps that I love the colors and theme that was chosen, which, by the way, is green and pink, chic, vintage, travel. In terms of my own home, I mentally live in some old dusty castle, so I find myself drawn to things you might find there. British and French design really speaks to me as I love that old, collected aesthetic. Budget limits fully fulfilling those ideas throughout my home, so I take on small projects to curve that craving, while making sure the rest of the house feels equally collected and lived in. I have some very ambitious ideas to overhaul my office, turning it into a moody lounge, and I hope to get the nerve to do that before too long. I thought adding a bit of tufting would add a little interest, so I'll start by measuring out and marking where I want those, attaching string that is similar to the green in the fabric just in case it shows, and securing that to the back using a bobby pin to hold that tension. Since this will not be sat on or heavily used, the use of hot glue and bobby pins will be sufficient to hold everything together with no issues. Felicity asked, did you do anything for St. Patrick's Day given your heritage and still slightly visible Irish tattoo? I'm really hoping this tattoo will be gone this year. This has been a long and painful laser process, 2 years at this point. I've actually had a few tattoos removed, only the ones that show while wearing normal clothing. The others will just have to stay. I wish I knew more about that part of my heritage, but unfortunately the most I've celebrated St. Patrick's Day was by drinking a green beer. I know much more about my Venezuelan heritage, due in large to Freddie being Venezuelan, and I can't explain it, but I've always felt more drawn to that side of me. I also love your idea of giving my opinion on things while shopping at craft and home decor stores. And once I get the courage to do that in public without dying of embarrassment, I will absolutely do that. One of the handful of reasons, all selfish ones, for starting this channel was to overcome fears like that. I am painfully shy, and sometimes still can't believe there is footage of me doing anything online, so progress has been made. I'm really pleased with how this tufting is turning out considering I don't really know what I'm doing here. Since the colors I'm working with are beige, green, and pink, I'll need to add some paint to this box. So I'll take some of this ribbon, cut that in half, and weave some thread through that in an accordion style to hopefully give me a dainty carnation style button. As you've probably guessed by now, this is a gender reveal box, and if I'm being 100% honest, I had to step away from this project a couple times. As happy as I am for the expecting couple, making this and holding baby clothes for the first time hit me harder than I expected, and brought up some feelings about fatherhood and the reality that it may not be something I experience myself. I'll just have to settle for being the preferred gunkle. The thought was that balloons would attach to this jacket and suspend it in the air, revealing that they will be having a little baby girl. I asked artificial intelligence how many balloons it would take to float this jacket after weighing it on a scale, and it said between 12 to 15. That was a lie, and I ultimately made multiple trips to stores, changing out the clothing, going lighter each time, and adding balloons, which were over 50 in the end, until I could get it to work. Because of all the troubleshooting and having a mini meltdown working right down to the wire, there's no footage of all the trial and error. At the end of the day it worked, the couple was happy, and I had some extra clothes to add to this mini suitcase, really leaning into that travel aspect accidentally. Now that we have that out of the way, we can get back to finishing the bedroom. Luckily, there's no shortage of lamps around here. It's kind of a running joke with those who know me and the collection I have, so I tried the shades on a different lamp. I really struggled with whether or not I would post this video at all because it isn't polished and it shows the messy process it sometimes takes a person like me, who is not a professional, to make it look like I nailed it on the first try. The reality is, for me at least, that everything I touch, I've touched many times before, and will likely touch again. Okay, I like this combination much more, but I don't love it in here. I don't get too fixed on any one thing staying in a particular place forever, and that allows me to make happy mistakes like this, unintentionally giving 3 spaces in my home a little switch up. After living with those for a day, I'm bringing in these really fun lamps that were in my upstairs living room that also have a floral print, mimicking the florals on the pillows. I should have started with these, I'm not sure why it never occurred to me. This is my happy dance, and Ezra gives her stamp of approval as well. I'll then be taking the lamps we just made and placing them in that upstairs living room I just mentioned. If you've been watching this channel, you might have recognized these lamp bases from the ones that were in the downstairs living room. I love the shape of these, but I always felt like they were a little tall and skinny for the shape of the table they were on down there. So this brings me to the last question, and Sable asked, I'm curious whether the rest of your house looks so elegant. Where are your problem areas and how do you tackle those? How do you organize your closet and kitchen? The rest of my house is definitely neat and tidy, but maybe not as realized as the spaces I've shown. Little by little, spaces will be revealed once I've done something I feel would be inspiring. This space by far is the least decorated and mostly where old furniture went to die. As far as my closet, it's mostly about getting clothes up before they wrinkle and moving on with my life, although I would love to turn the bedroom across the hall from mine into a walk-in. Same for my kitchen, nothing too fancy, though there is order to everything I do. And I hope to give my pantry a glow up in the near future, making a small space more functional and beautiful. And lastly, the lamp bases from my bedroom originally, with the original shades from the bases you just saw, have made their way downstairs, and I'm loving how they feel a little more anchored on these tables with their toothpick bases. They also tie in perfectly with the other black accents in the space, not to mention the other lamps whose bases are also black with their linen shades. After weeks of trial and error, we can finally put on the finishing touches of the bedroom by adding the ever so impractical but visually stylized trays to the foot of the bed. I want to thank you all for your questions. I hope my answers are satisfactory, and thank y'all so much for your always wonderful comments and support. Your kindness and positivity means the world to me.